Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Long have we waited. You didn't get jebaited. The FN-SCAR 17 awaited. The worst rifle in the Warzone single-handedly. But how do we make it work? Can we somehow figure out a recoil build that does something that's not horrible, where you're actually going to have fun with the FN-SCAR and don't feel like a complete idiot?
He's inside this wall. Downed.
Man.
In this explained video, we're going to go down on everything about the FN-SCAR, the recoil patterns, the behavior, the damage. Can you play it short range, long range, VLK optic? What is the FN-SCAR good at? Let's look at the base values of the gun. The FN-SCAR has a very low fire rate, 573 rounds per minute, where the Kilo, for example, is at 700. The damage values are pretty good though. You have an average 7 damage more per body part than the Kilo has, especially on the headshot. You're pretty good off. The Kilo has a couple of damage drop-off points where you technically have only 1 damage drop-off point / no damage drop-off point, and you actually don't lose any damage. So that's fantastic on the SCAR. It has like a complete thorough damage. Does not waver from it, just go on. Bullet velocity is also on point here, and the base ADS time is not all too awful. You can actually build the FN-SCAR in a good way where ADS attachments don't add so much, where you have a better ADS than a Kilo in the end, surprisingly. If we're looking at the time to kill of the SCAR, it's always 733 milliseconds. 733 milliseconds throughout everything. So what you can see here instantly is that after 30 meters, the gun is just better than the Kilo. And just keeps being better than the Kilo. And that actually goes on for every single AR, because every single AR has like these damage drop-off points where the time to kill gets asked. The thing here in reality is that the SCAR is just not as no recoil as the Kilo is. The Kilo is technically not good, but practically the Kilo just hits every single shot as soon as you're on target, where the SCAR might waver there a little bit more if we can't figure out a build to stop that. So realistically, the SCAR in close quarter, you can't build a short range. It's impossible. You have a 733 time to kill. Even with your headshot multiplier, you're worse off than any of the other rifles. I mean, the headshot multiplier is pretty nice, but can you rely on it in close quarter combat? No, you can't. It's kind of like the M13 problematic, especially with only 30 bullets. So what we're talking about here is if you shoot the chest, and if you're fighting against an MP5, for example, you have 200 milliseconds time to kill less. If you're fighting against an AMAX, you have 300 milliseconds time to kill less in close quarter combat. So we gotta aim for having a SCAR build that hits this sweet spot where it technically outranges the other ARs. Basic SCAR, 30 rounds, because hell, you're never gonna not play 30 rounds on this gun. One of the biggest problems, only 30 rounds. How do you feel? What do you do? What's your vibe, SCAR? Okay, what do we see here? Low fire rate paired with a little bit of horizontal bounce. That's interesting. It seems like bum 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 bum. So the gun has a natural horizontal bounce plus some visual recoil. As you can see, the gun kind of wobbles and bounces around there. Could almost play this in as a sniper version without a scope, technically. Get to see how much recoil stabilization puts in there. But what we definitely need is we need some recoil control and we need some recoil stabilization to work for that. Technically, if I build a standard VLK version, this should just be an absolute straight beamer. Let's go for max recoil control. How does a full recoil control SCAR look? Let's start with the barrel. The barrel, we have 3 options: Forge Tac 17, 20 inch, and also the Close Quarter Combat Pro that we will never use because obviously, as I said, don't use this gun in close quarter combat ever. So the 20-inch barrel has the most recoil control. We're talking about 10% plus vertical recoil, 52% bullet velocity, and 38% range modifier, but also plus 42 ms ADS frames. And that's why I'm saying that the SCAR attachments are insane, because the SCAR barrel, the Forge Tac 17.2 that we're going to be using in the long run, has only 2% less recoil control, but also majorly just like a little bit less bullet velocity and range. But the ADS plus is so minor, it's just fantastic. So this is the barrel to go for, but we're going to test the recoil control first. Then we're obviously going to add the compensator plus 27%. And here comes now the coolest attachment on this gun that also like the craziest. It's called the Bipod Foregrip.
The Bipod Foregrip is like a bipod, but a foregrip. It adds plus 21 ADS frames as it does for the normal operator, and it doesn't even have a ranger grip as I just see there right now. And the Bipod Foregrip adds plus 35% recoil control, and when you're prone, 50%. And this, that's just crazy. We're going to have our experiments going on with that Bipod Foregrip, definitely. And then I said it, guys, last but not least, VLK Optic, because that also adds some recoil control, and that is the maximum recoil control SCAR. Bipod Foregrip is kind of strange, but we set max recoil control, so it is what it is. We're going to zoom in. ADS time is awful. That's what I'm saying. You know, you might be able to get max recoil, but it's going to be awful. So how does... Oh my goodness. Hello, recoil, my old friend. Non-existence, you are here again. Wow, that's actually pretty nice. Like if we with a recoil, like this is obviously the Bipod Foregrip, right? We would spray this now. And that gun legitimately doesn't move on any distance. What if we like... Nope. There's still like visual recoil on the scope, like kicking back and forth, but it's like super funny when you're crouched, how crazy the Bipod Foregrip is. But we're missing that recoil stabilization. And now comes the interesting part. How do we get the ADS time down so we can make the gun viable, but we still keep an equivalent profile here on the recoil? Let's figure it out. How do we build this now more ADS efficient? So as I told you, the difference here between these is just that this one gives way better ADS frames, but there is not that much to consider. Like the Forged Tack is doing a fantastic good job. If we're swapping the Bipod Foregrip over to the Commando Foregrip, we're also saving ourselves, again, 21 ms ADS time. The thing is, the Bipod Foregrip is a good one, but when are you realistically being crouched? When you're realistically like actually proning to shoot, it does not happen that much. You're mostly actually standing in action, walking, going around. The amount of crouch and shoot is not there. So this boosts the ADS frames tremendously, Technically, we could consider putting a tack laser on, but that we'll keep for the no-scope version. Okay, you're going to be missing out your Bipod Foregrip. I'm shooting uncrouched in this case because the amount of times you actually do shoot crouch is relatively low. We do have more recoil generally, like this was the maximum super recoil. But all in all, we're feeling decent here. I mean, if we just look for the curve, it's just like there's no deviation. Look at the standard one, right? We're one line, one save line. It's pretty good. Might actually be interesting to see how much a muzzle brake would do now to maybe aid us here. Like we think the recoil of the SCAR is not the worst. I mean, even like there's no bouncy. So let's swap the compensator for muzzle brake. Muzzle brake, how do you feel? Obviously more recoil, but the whole gun just feels a little bit more smooth in your hands, I'm gonna have to say. When you obviously have a little bit more recoil, but you really get rid of this, because that was a problem. As I was shooting the gun, there was quite like I'm just gonna like try to hold it here, and but not like compensate, like just pulling it more or less down. You kind of have that it wants to go to the right and it wants to go to the left. Obviously, the more you get used to the gun, this should be able to get minimized by just playing it. So this feels like quite nice without having to care for the standard gun behavior, but you obviously get more of the long recoil. So that comes down like these two curves. So we get it down to a standard curve. That's fantastic. The ADS time is really good. Like I'm actually digging the ADS time here. And the visual recoil is minimal at this point with this build. So compensator or muzzle brake is just down to your personal preference. But also let's slap on the Monolithic and see how people like it. Monolithic suppressor. So Monolithic suppressor, tiny bit more recoil than the muzzle brake, having more aiming stability though. We have one shot going a little bit wonky. That's probably this shot here that goes for the longer recoil. But all in all, you pretty much have the same curve as with the muzzle brake, obviously not comparable to the compensator curve. And we're trying to aim this in here. We have the left and right bounce that the SCAR just brings with it. I've noticed this again. It's like something that you need to learn to control because the SCAR pulls hard to the right. So when you're actually spraying on this, you get to pull to the left, but it doesn't matter how much I pull to the left. I feel like the standard bounce from the left to right, this kind of stays with the SCAR apart from if I put the muzzle brake on. So at this point, I would actually go for this curve with the muzzle brake, intriguingly enough.
That's our long range SCAR. How would, though, a sniper SCAR look? And I think in the reality, it's the exact same gun, slapping down the scope, putting on the tag laser, and swapping compensator for muzzle brake. It seems like with this setup, you have zero visual recoil. It just really works absolutely nicely on the visual recoil, and you're just going to be beaming in a nice and straight line. The iron sight is not going to wobble away. You have a good straight shot with this setup. Let's test it.
This would be the SCAR version for the sniper. We talked about all the things, and now let's see if the muzzle brake does really get rid of the complete visual recoil. I mean, the ADS speed is great, honestly. It's like really good. It's down to like roughly 300 milliseconds. And yeah, the visual recoil is completely gone. We have quite some going up, but all in all, like we could stable spray this on an opponent running around. I wouldn't feel all too bad about it. We could even spray that on someone running in the distance. Like he's going to be here, like hat peeking here. Or we want to just shoot him. Yeah, there is the SCAR pulls up, but I'd say like if we would play this with the sniper, it would be this version. But keep in mind, you will never, ever be the first one to breach a building, and you will actually never ever be the one to breach a building. You will never ever want to breach a building. You're gonna be the guy, you're gonna play this SCAR together with an HDR, and you're always gonna be the long range support of your team and the mid range support if you really want to play a SCAR with a sniper.
Okay, guys, we've seen everything about the FN SCAR now. You've seen some gameplay clips. You've seen me clap with this gun left and right. There's going to be definitely a whole video coming showing how okay the SCAR is, I guess. What I love about it, it has a really nice sound, so I do enjoy playing the SCAR. We learned that it has a bipod foregrip that can be interesting depending on your playstyle. So if you're really playing, if you're that one guy that's playing so passive, that's crouching on every single time you beam someone, hey, this could be your friend. But realistically, you really want to get rid of the visual recoil. You do not want to use the bipod foregrip. But it's interesting that the gun has something like a bipod foregrip, but in reality, that is really not being used. The FN SCAR is an okay gun. You can have fun with it, you can enjoy it, but realistically, it's not in the meta, and I do not think that it's a go for option. Like the AK is an actual real go for option over the AMAX. The SCAR is like, it's a lover's choice. It's like, no, it's not even like the Odin. The Odin is actually really fucking good, but it's a lover's choice. If you're an FN SCAR fan because you play PUBG so much like me, and I just love the SCAR, go the hell and have some fun with it. This is the best you can build with it. This is the best where you can go with it. Like you can slap on the commander foregrip, where you've seen the builds multiple times now. You can put on the compensator or the muzzle brake, whichever recoil pattern liked you more, and then you're gonna frag some jimmies on the battlegrounds. I hope you enjoyed this video. A lot of people have been requesting the FN SCAR explained. Definitely drop in the comments below what other weapons you would like to see explained. There's so many more that we haven't covered yet. Obviously, there's an end to this series at some point because we can only analyze guns until there are no more guns. But I'll be definitely keeping this up. We'll definitely do this until every single thing is covered. Every other gun is down to the detail, and we know what we can expect and how to build them, how to play them, how to vibe them, and how to enjoy them in the Warzone. Wish you a fantastic good time. Thanks for pushing our channel to non-believable bounds. I mean, I honestly never believed I would earn a single cent with YouTube, and now it looks like we can actually buy food with YouTube, so that's crazy. Thanks a lot for your support, and see you soon in the Warzone.